We have a 2005 Audi A6 doing rear brakes with electronic calipers. So number one, take the wheels off. Do not do anything to the calipers. Don't bolt them. Just don't touch the calipers. Take the wheels off so your battery don't die while you're doing the electronic part of it. You will need a scanner to do the rear brakes. You have to electronically open and close the calipers before you take them off and replace the pads. So you go to select. Click the wrong thing. It's got to be a parking brake. You go. A parking brake. Scan for codes. Oh well, we have some codes over here. Hopefully those are old codes. Let's try to clear them. Okay, to open the calipers, go to basic settings. And choose open the parking brake calipers. If you don't use the vacuum, go to group number 7 to open the calipers. You'll hear the calipers go on right away, and as soon as they stop, you could go and change the pads. Yep. So now you're all set to go. So once the calipers have been electronically released, now you could change the pads. Remember one thing, do not turn off the ignition while you're doing that. So basically you release the calipers and leave the ignition and the scanner plugged in. Do not turn the ignition off. You're gonna need a 13mm wrench and a 15 open end. Hold the stud over here and take the caliper securing bolt off. Hold it with one hand and do the bolt with the other. Now do the bottom. Oh yeah, the space in between the caliper and the head of the stud is not that big, so try to get as skinny 15mm open end wrench as possible. Okay, so now you could take the caliper off. Take it off, be careful, don't break anything. Take the pads out. This one's grinding down all the way to the metal. Now we're gonna have to take the bracket off to get the rotor off. Now you gotta take the bolts securing the bracket down to the knuckle. There's one over here and one down there. You can't really see it, but when you're gonna be looking at the bracket, you see where the bolt goes. This one is 18mm. There could be different bolt types. It could be Allen keys, could be triple squares. So you just gotta pick the tool you need for that job. Be careful when you're doing that, don't damage the axle boot. And some of them come with a different length bolts, so make a note when you take the bolt out which one goes where. As you see, you can't really see that bottom bolt, but it's there. Get the bracket off. Yeah, this side the rotor is secured with a T30 Torx screw. Take it out. Be careful, don't strip it. If you feel like it's about to strip, you're gonna need a hammer screwdriver. You could get that at any auto parts store or AutoZone. It's basically an impact screwdriver. Looks like this. You put your bit on top of this and put it to the bolt, hammer it, and it's gonna loosen the bolt. You could hammer the rotor off. Don't go too crazy on it, you might damage the bearing. You don't need to be hot. You have to clean all the rust of the hub, because if you're not gonna clean it when you bolt down the rotor, it might warp the rotor, because see this thing is sticking up a little bit, so you have to clean it off. I'll put some anti-seize on it so the rotor doesn't rust anymore and the rotor doesn't get stuck on it, as well as the wheel. Grab a new rotor. These ones are coated from the factory. They don't suggest you cleaning it with any parts cleaners or anything like that. This coating on the rotor is gonna come off when you start driving, so just put it on like this. Now get your bracket back on. So thread the bolts in with the fingers. Always start threading it in both of them so they align properly. It's a bit of a pain to get the bottom bolt in. Make sure it's nice and tight. Grab new set of pads. There will be shims in there. Well, original pads come with the shims. So. Pick the ones that you're gonna need for that side. They're a bit different. Make sure the shims are sitting in all the way. Install the new pads. Now you could spread the caliper. You could spread the caliper with any caliper tool because it's electronically released, so it's gonna be just like a front caliper. This little tool that we spread the calipers with, it's pretty easy. If you have to force it in, it means something's wrong. you should stop and check everything again. It's gotta go in relatively easy. Okay, we compress it all the way, and you're all set. Put it back on the bracket. Put the bolts back in. Like I said before, start threading it in with your fingers first. Now tighten it. Like I said before in the video, the space over here between the bracket and that little head is not that big. So if you put the wrench in all the way, you will basically bolt your wrench down in that space. So pull it out a little bit so you could get it out later on when you're done tightening it. It doesn't go in all the way. That's why you can't put it in all the way, because it's gonna get stuck. Okay, as you see, our scanner is still connected to the car, still on, the ignition is still on. The little rotating dash, that means that the scanner is communicating with the control module still. Now you gotta go back to basic settings, and see there's an option to close the caliper. If you don't have those options, then it's gonna be group number 6. You'll hear the caliper start working again, and it's gonna sound like they bottomed out, so it means that they closed. Just make sure some of the newer cars and A8s, they're gonna have one more option to set the thickness of the pads. Before you put the wheels on, you're gonna have to set it up. If you close the calipers and then don't set the pad thickness in the scanner, then you're gonna have a problem. It's gonna have a brake pad wear warning light on, saying that your rear brake pads are worn. So make sure to set that up as well. Okay, so after you close the calipers, you gotta cycle the parking brake on and off. It's working. So you should be all set.